This video is going to talk about changes in dimension. We're going to talk about changes in the dimensions of the perimeter of a polygon and changes in the dimension of the area of a polygon. So, two things that we need to know starting off. If the dimensions of a polygon are multiplied by x, whatever x happens to be, the perimeter of the polygon changes by a factor of x, which means if we multiply the sides by x, then we multiply the perimeter by x. If the dimensions of a polygon are multiplied by x, again, the area of the polygon changes to x times x, or x squared. So when you change the perimeter, you multiply by the same number you multiplied. When you change the area, you multiply by the number you multiplied squared. Let's go ahead and take a look at what this looks like. I tried to squish some shapes in here so that we wouldn't get too much motion after I move the camera and get it set. So we'll see how this works out. Let's go ahead and start with this figure over here, the pentagon. This pentagon has sides that are all 8 inches because it is perfectly drawn. So the perimeter is 40 inches because 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8 plus 8, or 8 times 5, is 40. Let's see what happens when we multiply the sides by a quarter. So, for example, if I take this 8 and I multiply it by 1/4. Remember that multiplying a whole number times a fraction means that you have to put the whole number over 1. That makes it 8 over 4, which is 2. So now, on our new side lengths, on our slightly smaller pentagon, which I'm not going to draw because that one's good enough, and I won't get that good again, each of these sides are now going to be 2 inches. And when each of these sides are 2 inches, we have to figure out what is the new perimeter. So there's two things we could do. We could add up 2, 2, 2, and 2, or 2 times 5, and get 10 inches. Looking at the relationship from old perimeter to new perimeter, you might notice that we didn't have to go and look at all the side changes. We could have just taken that 40. Nope. We could have just taken that 40, multiplied it by 1/4. Put the 40 over 1, that'll equal 40 over 4. 40 over 4 is the same as that 10 inches there. So because we multiplied all the side lengths times 1/4, the new perimeter is also changed by 1/4. Now that's on a pentagon. Let's go ahead and try something that's a little bit simpler to work with. Let's go ahead and try a triangle. We're going to multiply times 2 instead of by a fraction and see if that works with upscaling as well as downscaling. We made this pentagon smaller when we multiplied by 1/4. We're going to try to make this triangle bigger. So we're going to multiply each of these side lengths by 2. So instead of 4 inches, this side is now going to be 8 inches. This side is also going to be 8 inches. This side will be 12 inches. The old perimeter was 16 inches because 4 plus 4 plus 6 is 16. You know what? 4 plus 4 is 10. 4 plus 6 is 10. I can talk. Should be 14 inches, my apologies. And that doesn't look like 14 on the camera. We're having a good day today. So the old perimeter is 14 inches. We want to figure out what the new perimeter is. So we're going to try to multiply the old perimeter by 2 and see what we get. And we know that 14 times 2 is going to be 28. Let's test it out by adding each of the new sides and seeing if that's still true. 8 plus 8 is going to be 16, plus 12 is still going to be 28. So no matter which way we go about this, you're still going to get the same answer, whether you multiply all of the sides or just take the perimeter and multiply it by whatever you're trying to change the shape by. Let's go ahead and take a look at changing the area now. We're going to take a look at a parallelogram. This parallelogram, it has a height of 3 meters and a base of 8 meters, which means when we find the area using the formula base times height, 3 times 4, is going to be 24. What happens if I want to change the dimensions of this parallelogram by 3? What happens if I multiply the base and the height times 3? So the height times 3 will end up being 9 meters, and the base times 3 will end up being 24 meters. Now, according to our statement that you saw at the beginning of the video, when we multiply the dimensions by x, the area will be multiplied by x times itself, or by x squared. So by that, what we should find is that this area of 24 should be multiplied by 3 squared. And of course, that's right on the light. Should be multiplied by 3 squared, or by 9. So let's go ahead and try multiplying the area times 9, and then we'll see if the dimensions make the same area. So 24 times 9, do that off to the side. 9 times 4 is going to be 36. 9 times 2 is 18. Plus 3 is going to be 21. We get an area of 216 meters squared. And it just so happens with this problem that the base and the height are also 24 times 9. So we are still going to get the same area of 206 meters squared. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at this last example. This last example is a rectangle. And what we're going to do for this rectangle is we are going to multiply the length and the width times 2. But before we do that, let's take a look at the dimensions. So, the area, the base, the length and the width of this rectangle are 4 and 6. So when you find the area of a rectangle, it's going to be 6. It's going to, the length and the width, I'm going to start that over rather than restart the video. The length and the width of the rectangle are 4 and 2. The 2 looks like a 6 in the, it's fine. So when we find the area, we're going to multiply 4 times 2 and get 8 feet squared. So we have that area. When we multiply the length and the width times 2, when we double it, that means our area is going to change by a factor of 2 times 2, or it's going to change by a factor of 4. So let's figure out what's 8 times 4. Well, 8 times 4 is going to be 32. So we'll put 32 feet squared. Let's go ahead and test that by finding the new dimensions so that we can find the new area. When we multiply the length and the width times 2, 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to multiply 8 times 4, and I'm still going to get 32 feet squared. Your homework is going to be to explain to me in your own words what it means. What happens when you change the dimensions of a polygon by x? What happens to the area? What happens to the perimeter? There is no question for you to solve, only that question for you to answer.